Week 14. We are almost officially in playoff mode, folks. We got one more game, and it should be a banger tonight. Let me tell you what. We're talking about the Cowboys and the Bengals, but we are here to recap all the fun events of Week 14. It is myself, Jesse Muller. Hashtag all hail King Puka. If you got the discount earlier this year, congrats to you. You are looking like a genius. Along with my co-host, Jeremy Schulman. Hashtag 7-ball game strikes again. Darnold does it once again. Damn. Can't stop him with KOC. Those guys are unstoppable at this point. Crazy. How's your Week 14? You enjoy your weekend? Are you getting ready for the holidays? How was everything for you, Jeremy?
Yeah, man. It was good. Had a birthday yesterday, so that was good. Had some fantasy W's, so that was good. Had some big fantasy L's. Got some hanging in the balance still. Out of the Scott Fish Bowl. It was a good run. My apocalypse killed me in that one and in a few other leagues. But I got a few chances to squeak into the playoffs with some very good teams this week, one of which hangs in the balance. I got CeeDee Lamb going against Chase Brown. I'm down 1 point. CeeDee Lamb has not scored Chase Brown since Chase Brown became the workhorse. I double-checked. I am concerned, to say the least. I've been in first place all year in this league. But look, such is fantasy football. We do what we can. We roll on regardless. And we're going to talk about all these games and enjoy Week 14 and the future weeks to come.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Like, once again, happy birthday to you. I know we're talking about screen, but yeah, man, this as time marches on, you realize just, what's important. And that's the fantasy football, folks. That's what it's all about, right?
Yes, sir.
But yeah, let's if anyone's out in the comments please drop them in and we'll answer them as they come aboard. We're covering all the teams, so we're going to go through them. Starting we're going to talk about Thursday's game. Yes, that was a game that happened not too long ago. That was the Lions beating the Packers in a controversial decision by the head coach to go for it on 4th and short, to really just not give the Packers a chance to get the ball back. That's what they did. They got it. They kicked the game-winning field goal because you didn't want to give the Packers the ball back. I agreed with it, but it was risky. We can talk about – I guess we'll hop into the Lions real quick right here. Sam LaPorta back in the circle of trust because, hey, Sam was looking nicey, they say. Sam LaPorta had 5 receptions on 7 targets for 54 yards. And in the land of tight end, that is very, very nice these days. So where are you kind of at with LaPorta and the rest of the Lions offense? You think he could be a viable top 12 tight end moving forward for the rest of the season in the playoffs?
I don't freaking know. I don't know what the hell to do with Sam LaPorta here. I think that the takeaway here for me is this is a high-scoring game, as many of the Detroit Lions games are. But Jared Goff had to throw the ball here 41 times because the Packers were keeping pace, and they were doing pretty well on the ground. 41 times is the second highest attempts on the season for Jared Goff. The only other time he threw it more was against Tampa, 55 times. And really in the last 8 weeks, the last couple of weeks, he's been throwing it in the mid-30s. But here, 41 times is nice. He's got Buffalo next week, so that bodes well. Chicago, San Francisco. It's possible he can get up there more often than not again. But that's why I think Sam LaPorta was viable. Jameson Williams, more targets than anyone else. Amon-Ra basically put up the same stat line as everyone else. They just spread it around the ball around nicely in the receiving game. Every single guy who caught a ball for the Detroit Lions caught either 5 or 6 balls this game. No more, no less. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was odd. If you told me that Goff was going to throw it 41 times, I thought Amon-Ra would go nuclear in this game. Because a couple of weeks ago, he did just do that, right? But no, he was just fine. Tim Patrick stole 2 touchdowns. Him and Williams led the wide receiver room of targets. It was those 3. No other wide receiver had a catch in this game. So it was consolidated around those 3 guys. They were running most of the routes. And Sam LaPorta, right? Like Brock Wright played an appearance, had a target, but that's about it. I think just this offense is just such a juggernaut, right? And even with all the issues they're having on the defensive end, they can't be stopped. They're going to have an advantage against pretty much every defense in the NFL because all the premier defenses are struggling at one point or the other with injuries. So I think it's set up for them to just have to outscore teams in the playoffs. They can totally do it.
Yeah. And I think to the point of this question, you got to trust Sam LaPorta. You probably don't have a ton of options. If you went out and picked up Jonnu Smith, fine, you play Jonnu Smith. He got there last week, but needed overtime in order to post anything. So you got lucky there. If you got Juwan Johnson, for example, that might be another option, but you're really kind of stretching it pretty thin if you're starting guys like Juwan Johnson with no Derek Carr over Sam LaPorta. So yeah, I think you trust him as your tight end in the playoffs here.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's just not enough good tight ends. So if you have him, both him and Mark Andrews have done this very weird season where it's been extremely up and down. Andrews has been definitely better in the second half of the year, but you see LaPorta kind of like earning himself back into the offense, playing a more important role, and they're realizing the Lions, which I don't know why, but he's a very good tight end. That's what he is, right? Let's go to Green Bay and talk about Josh Jacobs' show. Josh Jacobs went bananas in this game, folks. Now, he didn't have a lot of yards. It was 16 carries for 66 yards, but they got in 3 really good situations for him, and he finished off the touchdown each time. Jordan Love was able to get a touchdown, but it was Josh Jacobs, really. 24 points in this game. He had 0 receptions, which is probably the surprising thing. I thought maybe if you put up a nuclear game like this and you go ham, like he was going to do both. I think it comes down to Christian Watson made a ton of big plays in the offense, and he was the one guy that continued to do it. And then they could trust Josh Jacobs. I know the Lions were a little bit injured in this game, so we had a little bit more confidence with Josh Jacobs. Mm-hmm. But if you look at his weekly stat line, he's just been going bananas ever since week 5? He's been over 10 points in all of those games, particularly since the bye week in week 11. It's 21 fantasy points, 28, 19, and 24 in this game. So he's really turned it on down the back end. And shocker, there's a ton of touchdowns. And there's 8 combined touchdowns in that 4-game span.
Yeah.
That will do that for any running back. So they have games against Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota to kind of round out the playoffs for you guys. You're just going to fire him up because of how good and how valuable he's been. It's Josh Jacobs' world we're living in right now at this point, because if you have him, you have to be loving that top 5-ish numbers he's putting up for you.
Yep. And to your point there, since the bye, this is half PPR, RB 5, 2, 5, and 4 on the week. So he's absolutely crushing. He's probably been the most consistent outside of Saquon over that span. Just absolutely dominating for you. And yeah, Seattle and New Orleans, no problem, fire them up. Minnesota, maybe a little bit of an issue, but that defense, against tougher competition, I'm not so worried about him in that one. So yeah, 3 touchdowns, that'll get you there no matter what, even despite just 66 yards for Josh Jacobs. But this team looked awesome. They don't need Romeo Doubs. They proved that. Doubs will come back. All right. So that they don't need Jaden Reed. Apparently, they proved that as well. No, put up a goose egg. He might have had a target in this one. No catches, no yards. But they're just moving the ball kind of at will against one of the better teams in the NFL. And the yardage was down all around, but it didn't matter. They got it done and damn near won this game.
Yes, that's what it comes down. The whole Jaden Reed thing is just that was perplexing to say the least, because he's been has the highest targeted guy on their team, but he's been very good. And they were just no, we're not doing Jaden Reed today. It's not you. We're okay, well, I guess it's not Jaden Reed game. And it clearly was not. It was Watson that made the big plays like we mentioned before, crafted a little bit here. Wicks was okay on the game, and really nobody else in this game. Jordan Love was more of a letdown because he didn't get the touchdowns, right? He scrambled a little bit for 4 for 23, but overall, I did see the comment. The Vikings are a very good team. They're a very good team. We've been saying that all year. My issue with we'll talk about the Vikings. Sam Darnold's always been my issue with the Vikings, not the Vikings themselves. That's when it comes down to playoffs.
Discuss.
Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. I don't have to go on a rant about Sam Darnold. You know my feelings on Sam Darnold if you follow me on. Let's go to our next game. That is going to be Jacksonville, Tennessee, which the Jags just held on for a 10-6 win. There's not too much to take away from a fantasy perspective in this game, because there was nothing really that happened. We had a couple guys that did it for you. They didn't really get touchdowns, but it really Brian Thomas Jr. stood out. Tony Pollard stood out. The rest of the guys, Takes Bigsby was okay. Mac Jones, Will Levis. There's no touchdowns in this game. So if there's no touchdowns in a game, it makes it a heck of a lot harder for anybody to be good for you. So we don't have to spend a ton of time with these teams, but let's start out with the Jags. Can we start any Jaguar in fantasy? And I honestly don't know the question. Obviously, I think if you're getting 12 targets a game from Brian Thomas Jr., you're going to fire him up because that's money. But this running back room, they're splitting. It's kind of a disaster. The quarterback room without Lawrence, there's no really scrambling ability for Mac Jones. So Evan Ingram, it's you just hope at this point, because that's clearly he's taken it. He still has 6 targets, but just didn't really do much with it. So I think it's going to be inefficient for them. Is there any guy with the Jaguars you are going to be starting for the playoffs?
Yeah, it's Brian Thomas. I mean, he's got the Jets who have proven, they can play defense when they want to. They don't always want to. Then he's got Vegas and Tennessee again. So I'm firing up Brian Thomas Jr. every single week from here on out. Since the bye, 10 and 12 targets. No surprise for that a rookie wide receiver is going to increase his target share after the bye. Not all targets, however, are created equal. These are Mac Jones targets. Because of that, we expect some down weeks, but still managed to be the wide receiver 16 and the wide receiver 18.5 PPR in the last 2 weeks. So Brian Thomas Jr. is proving that he's quarterback proof. I love it. I love him. Outside of that, because they're playing the Jets, I do not think Tank Bigsby is viable next week. The Jets have life for some reason. That should be a Travis Etienne game. You could play Etienne in a pinch. Hopefully, you're not in that pinch, because if you have Travis Etienne, you are likely not in the playoffs. But then against the Raiders and then against Tennessee, you can fire up Bigsby again. Evan Ingram is just so tough. I don't know what the hell's going on, but Mac Jones just isn't connecting there. So, and Parker Washington, we saw his best game. So it's Brian Thomas. Yes. And then, maybe it's one of these backs, depending on what you assume the game script is, but these are the playoffs. I mean, you probably have better options.
Yeah, if you're counting on those guys as like an RB2 in a game, like it gets real treacherous for you very, very fast in these matchups, because you're playing the playoffs. You're likely a lower seed, which means you're going up against a higher seed. Those teams are stacked. You might run into a Saquon. You might run into a Josh Jacobs. Maybe they're on the same team. And you're like, oh boy, how do you guys really do it? So if you're counting on them, I would, if you have other options, if it's all about just like touches the running back position. If you can get away from that, I would highly recommend it, just because it's really treacherous. Let's go talk about your favorite fantasy running back, and that's Tony Pollard with Tennessee Titans. He's been the guy you've been pounding the table for the entire time. Did it again. He had over 100 yards. Didn't give you the touchdown, which is the issue, but he was really good outside of that. We talked about this on the show yesterday, that it's just Tony Pollard's backfield. Like I still like Tyler Spears, but 21 carries, 102 yards, had 2 receptions, 22 yards. The offense just could not do anything else. Now, Ridley had 12 targets, so like similar to Brian Thomas Jr., it's kind of the same thing. We talked about that as well. You're going to keep firing these guys up because the targets are so high for them, but the rest of the offense, man, it's really those two guys. I don't think you want to do the Will Levis. This was the Will Levis chance against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The worst defense against quarterbacks. Did nothing. The Jaguars, maybe they have life too. Why don't you just talk about Tony Pollard for a second, because he's that good.
Yeah, 21 carries, 102 yards, 4.9 a clip against a decent run front. Tennessee was pretty injured in this one on the defensive side, however. So, look, Tony Pollard just continues to do it. It doesn't matter. He had a down week again against Washington and Dan Quinn. Makes sense that Dan Quinn would take away the only guy who's really producing on a consistent basis. But guess what? Cincinnati is next. Please do yourself a favor and watch Rico Dowdle and what he's able to do in a bad offense with a mediocre offensive line against the Cincinnati defense. I guarantee you Rico Dowdle is going to have a good night. This is going to be a precursor to what Tony Pollard will do next week. Then he faces Indy. Then he faces Jacksonville again, where he should score. He didn't score this week. He's still RB16. So please, please, please fire up Tony Pollard every single week without fail for the rest of your playoffs and ride his ass to a championship. We've been talking about it. He still had a decent game for you, even though he didn't score.
Yeah, like that. It is what it is, man. He's just really good back. He's clearly recovered from the major traumatic leg injury, which hampered him the entire season last year. I think he had the Andrews thing where it was like the injury, it was like the IT injury, whatever it is. Takes him a long time to come back for it. And you kind of see that with Andrews, took him about half a year. Tony Pollard, it happened later, so it took him a little bit longer. But he's back to being the guy he was in Dallas, who was one of the most explosive, just one of the best backs in the NFL. And he's that guy. So to let you know, good.
Real quick on Tony Pollard, he is on track for roughly the same amount of attempts, a little bit more on the yardage end, the same amount of rushing touchdowns, the same amount of targets, the same amount of receptions, and roughly the same amount of yards that he's had over the last 2 seasons. In those seasons, half PPR has finished as the RB7 and RB15. He's right there. He's currently the RB16. So this is just what Tony Pollard does. This is who he is. Doesn't matter where he is. And he's got 3 more fantasy games to show you what he's going to do.
Yeah, you hope they can improve the team around him next year, because he's in a multi-year contract. You hope they do that so that way next year the team's better and he can elevate it even higher to being like a legitimate RB1 the entire season, because
for sure,
the offense is so bad it kind of brings him down a little bit. And the way like this reminds me like Saquon years ago. He was just such a target magnet, which was the difference, right? And that kind of kept him afloat on the really bad team. So if they improve the team around him, they build, because I'm not sure what they're going to do this offseason. It could be an even better year next year moving for Tony Pollard, because they got the potential for it. Let's move on to the Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And this game was entertaining. Like, these defenses were not ready to play. Let's just hit the Jets because they have the most interesting kind of fantasy takeaway for the playoffs. That running back room, it was basically split down the middle. I kind of have it here. Braelon Allen had 11 carries, 5 targets, 81 yards from scrimmage, and snapped 55% of the time. Isaiah Davis, who, he's a good prospect. I didn't like him as much as Braelon Allen. Obviously, turns out he's pretty good. 10 carries, 6 targets, 67 yards, 52% of snaps. So this tells you it is a very muddy backfield. Now, they both had a little bit of usage in the receiving game, and that kind of was like, that works for both of them. You could split it with them, but it's rough. The rest of the guys did good. Like, we talk about some of these players for these teams. They did good for you. Like, Aaron Rodgers put up 339 yards. Both the wide receivers got there. Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson both over 100 yards in this game. Devontae Adams had touchdown, separated it. And, that is what it is. So for these running backs, what's your kind of takeaway from it? And are you willing to bet on Isaiah Davis or Braelon Allen going into the fantasy playoffs?
Yeah, I think you could probably do both, like you said. Allen is more so the hammer. Davis is more so the guy who's going to bounce it outside if he can. Both looked really good in this game. Davis was more explosive, but I think they just continue to 50-50 it here. If I had to choose one, I'm actually going to choose Allen, because I think he's going to be the guy who majority of the time will get the goal line. But when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, he's still going to throw it a ton down inside the 10 zone. So I think Hall is cooked. I think they should shut him down. I think they will shut him down. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on IR. But we got Jacksonville, the Rams, and Buffalo. We saw the Rams absolutely get gouged last night. We saw, Jacksonville hold up Tennessee, but the Jets have been cooking against a pretty decent Dolphins defense, especially this past week. And then Buffalo, you can run all over Buffalo. You can't pass. So it's a really good spot. We love this spot for Breece Hall. I do not think it's Breece Hall. I would be surprised if it's Breece Hall, but we'll see. If not, I will bet on Allen, but you can get either of these guys. Doesn't matter. You can start them every week.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they play enough. It's consolidated around this. It's going to remind me a lot of Pittsburgh without George Pickens and how it impacts those two running backs there. We see a massive uptick in targets, and our boy Jalen Warren is more looking like that target magnet he was previously. So kind of similar to that. I think they could be viable for you. Kind of like, flex level running backs with RB2 upside. And then if one hits the pay dirt, that's how you get there. Let's go to Miami. Talk about Miami. Jonnu cannot be stopped, and Tua's been on a heater, folks. Another 23 points. Tua, since we can even go back since he took back over in week 8. It's 14 fantasy points and 17. He has one egg against the Rams, 8 points. And then it's 23, 28, 25, and 23 fantasy points because they're throwing it a ton. He's passed it over 40 games the last 3 games. He had 36 the week before. The yardage is there. The touchdowns are there. When you get these non-mobile quarterbacks, if they're going to throw it at this rate and hit touchdowns, like, it's fine. This reminds me a lot of Stafford the last couple of years when he's been really hot and running well. You see similar stuff like that. I mean, for this offense, the Achane thing was the worrisome because he left, he came back, he finished the game. They don't have any concerns with him. You had Tyreek Hill, you had Jalen Waddle do their things, and I mean, Jonnu Smith was very much a dud until overtime, and then he caught the game-winning touchdown and won it. What's your kind of thought process on this offense going through for the playoffs?
Well, to your point, in the last month, Tua has been slinging it. QB 10, 3, 7, and 4 in that span. I believe that might be 6 point. That could be standard quarterback scoring. Either way, he is slinging the rock. More importantly, he's throwing it, like you said, 40 plus times a game in that span. He hasn't thrown an interception in that span, and they've won 3 of their last 4 games. There's no reason for Mike McDaniel to turn away from Tua the way he's been slinging it, the way he's been able to, bring this team back. Who do they have next week? Houston. We know Houston can play, especially with Nico Collins. This Dolphins defense is hurting a little bit. They're a little bit banged up. Then San Francisco, we saw Guerendo, and what he means to that offense, and they were cooking against a decent Chicago defense, and then Cleveland. So we know that they're going to have to keep this up, and they want to win. There's an outside shot at 6 and 7 that they make the playoffs. So, look, you just bet on Tua. You bet on everybody 8 in this game. Tyreek, Waddle was out there. A-Chan. So Jonnu got there in overtime. So look, you just fire everybody up, but especially Tua.
Yeah, it was weird. We saw this is what we expected to more see from the offense around the 2 wide receivers the entire season. We've not seen it all year pretty much. And then this game, they're like, oh, we have this amazing NFL tight end who's a yak monster. We're not going to give it to him. We're going to go back to wide receivers. And I'm like,
yeah.
All right, man, I don't know what McDaniels is doing anymore. I don't know. And so, but he got saved by the touchdown. You know what? That can happen. When you have 4 guys, as long as you're getting touchdowns involved, you can make it work. It is a little bit more treacherous for those guys. Well, but yeah.
But 14 Tyreek targets, 12 Jalen Waddle targets. This is what we all expected. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mike McDaniel. And A-Chan 6 for 45 through the air, a touchdown on the ground monster. You fire them all up. You go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to actually pull up this comment because this is going to segue into our Vikings Falcons game. Defy. It's not a weekly thing with Darnold. This is the problem with Darnold. It's so up and down. You get his good is really good. His bad is really bad. And the nice thing about this KOC offense, which we don't spend too much time talking about it, is it just races the floor.
Lamar.
Yes.
Who else got?
Burrow. Yes. I will say, you have guys like, yes, Baker's been playing better than Darnold.
Is he playing better than Darnold?
I think he is.
It's close.
Yeah.
Let's say Baker.
Yeah. And then you kind of get into these other guys that are playing well, but it's like, how far do you want to go with it, right, is the question. You can definitely make the case. Like, I think Purdy has played better than Darnold this year, even though their team's worse and everything's not working for them. Like, what they're asking Purdy to do. Like, you saw in this game, Purdy went nuclear. I think he's been better.
He did.
Stafford's been up and down. I don't think he's really played better. He's had times where he's been better. It actually reminds me of Darnold a lot, like those two guys. Like, Stafford and Darnold is very, which is a weird thing to say. But yeah, I think right now he's
struggling.
That situation is like if you take Darnold out of this situation and you plop him on, say, Carolina, right? Like, it's going to be ugly, and that's my concern. But in the situation he's in, like, he's gonna keep cooking, man. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this game. We'll go and cover them first. What in the Sam Hill is happening in Minnesota? Yeah, we were not sure. I always thought like he would put up good numbers in this offense because everything is so insulated around him. You have the playmakers, you have the running backs, you have the wide receivers, you have the tight ends. You have one of the best play callers in the NFL, and it's working out for him. Like, they're doing pretty good things offensively, and you're seeing this. So, but a monster game from him, basically 35 fantasy points because those touchdowns were cooking, baby. 5 touchdowns, count them. That's how you do it. Aaron Jones had a solid game. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, they went nuclear just because you can't cover Justin Jefferson no matter what you want to do. TJ Hawkinson was okay. But yeah, this Vikings are going to push for the 1 seed. I don't know if they're going to get it because, they have Detroit and you have the Lions, Philadelphia right there. But they're making a case for it, man. They're just a really good team.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the other guy we can say who's playing better than Sam Darnold right now, we'll talk about him later, is Bryce Young. But Sam Darnold has been doing it all season. And that's the crazy part. Really since all right, 2 bad games for Sam Darnold. 2 this entire season. 1 against the Jets early in week 5, QB 27, 14 of 31, no touchdowns and a pick. And then in week 10, inexplicably against Jacksonville, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Really a terrible game for him there. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his 13 games, he's been a quarterback 1 on the week. He's been balling out, and he just proved to you what he's able to do. Does Sam Darnold have talent? Yes. Is Sam Darnold a fairly smart NFL player? Yes. Will Sam Darnold succeed on another team? To your point, I don't know. And I'm not willing to bet on that. If Sam Darnold stays in Minnesota, yes, I will bet on Sam Darnold all day. I am betting on Kevin O'Connell and not Sam Darnold. I am betting on the weapons over here and not Sam Darnold. If he moves somewhere else, I'm going to sell the crap out of Sam Darnold in Dynasty. You should sell Sam Darnold for Bryce Young, for whatever. What the Vikings should do, what they should do is stick with J.J. McCarthy on that rookie contract, get as much out of him, develop him, and then go win a title. If Sam Darnold makes a run, that is not necessarily Sam Darnold driven, and he stays in Minnesota. I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but I'll play Sam Darnold fantasy.
Yeah, like for fantasy, look at like the whole Kyler thing has been so up and down in that offense, just everything. Like that's the massive surprise. Like you could talk yourself into like Sam Darnold having a golf type season, like in this situation. The thing like Kyler's just been a letdown, and like so seeing those two games close together is like always breaks my brain for fantasy because I'm like, oh yeah, I want these rushing quarterbacks. I'm like, wait a second, like it's not going so well for this rushing quarterback. So it gets into the Richardson of those guys too. Sometimes when they struggle hard, but yeah, it is what it is. Like you have Tua Baker, those guys.
We just talked about Tua. Forgot about Tua. Yeah, I'd say Tua is playing better than Darnold right now. And Bryce. So maybe 6. Maybe we got to 6 or 7 guys. Sam Darnold's balling out though.
Yeah, he's played well. But the issues which we've seen, this goes back to college for Darnold, is just the massive blunders he makes. Like these are just back-breaking mistakes he makes, and he's done it the entire time. Now he's limited it a lot. You haven't seen it a lot in Minnesota. But there are times where like guys have dropped picks, and this happens with every quarterback. This happens with freaking Mahomes in Kansas City and stuff like that. So I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah.
Good point, Jay.
Yeah, Nick's is like the prospect that kind of like Darnold, where there's a lot of stuff where it's like very up and down. People are like that. But let's talk about the Falcons and a quarterback who is massively struggling right now. Kirk Cousins, baby. I don't know what's going on with you, my friends. They're making the drumbeat for Penix is growing louder and louder. It would not surprise me to see him take over because this team's still playoff contention. Now they did lose the one seed in their division because they lost Tampa 1, but yeah, it's looking really, really bad. Cousins is making these just killer mistakes, which we talk about with Darnold and those guys. Like this is what Cousins is doing right now. He doesn't have zip on his fastball. Like it's just you see some throws and you're just like, dude, there's no velocity on that. Like what's going on? At least with Rodgers coming off an injury. Rodgers still has enough strength with his passes. You're like, okay, I get it. But like Bijan got there. Bijan did it again. Algier, if anybody was starting Algier, which I'm assuming some people randomly were because it was bi-league apocalypse. He got a touchdown. He got in. Darnell Mooney, the Moon Man, does it again. You know what I'm saying? 6 for 142. God, Darnell Mooney's been awesome this year. Drake London did enough to get there for fantasy because 5 for 70. That's okay, but it's not the game we were expecting. We were expecting more because Minnesota pass defense gives up a ton of fantasy points. And Kyle Pitts, 1 for 6. So back out on Kyle Pitts. Like I don't know how you could trust Kyle Pitts anymore. It's just been a disaster for him offensively. The problem is the Vikings are so good against the run. They force teams to pass because teams cannot run against them. And you see this time and time again, just because it's really difficult. And then they get pressures really well. They cause turnovers and force like the EPA perspective. Like it's really good defense. It's schemed up very well. The Vikings are one of the better teams in the NFL. Now, this gets in the Darnold thing, but yeah. For the Falcons, do you think Penix ends up starting, or do you think it's just they're going to run Kirko out the entire rest of the season?
I don't know. I mean, this team doesn't have a chance. They're 6-7. I mean, technically they have a chance, but no, I don't think they can. Vegas, Giants, Washington, Carolina. If you want to win those games, I think you throw Penix out there. Here's why, Jesse. Can you tell me the last time, week-wise, what number week, the last time Kirk Cousins threw a touchdown?
Dude, it's got to be Tampa Bay. So he's been on another level against Tampa Bay. Yeah. Every other team, he's been abysmal. I don't get it.
So that Tampa game, do you know what week it was? Or can you guess roughly around?
It was like 3 or 4 weeks ago or something like that, right?
Yeah. So it was 7 weeks ago, Jesse. 7 weeks ago, that Tampa game. He threw 4 touchdowns. That was week 8. We're in week 4. We almost finished week 14. In week 9, he played Dallas and threw 3 touchdowns. He has not thrown a touchdown since week 9. That's week 10 in New Orleans, week 11 in Denver, week 12 bye, week 13 against the Chargers, and this week against Minnesota. 0 touchdowns in 5 weeks with a bye for Kirk Cousins. It's been miserable. Yes. I can't even speak because of how ridiculous this is. Yeah, it has to be Michael Penix. See what you have so you can get the hell out from under Kirk Cousins now.
Yeah, like this is the thing. You see it. I know he's tied to that fat contract, and maybe they could get someone to take on the contract, like because you're not just going to cut him. Like it's going to cost him too much money. Like it's bad with Cousins, and if you want to win you got a chance to win that division. You're literally just 1 game behind Tampa Bay. It's not like you just have to play Penix, see what you have because it can't get worse than what Kirk Cousins is going to get. Now I say that like it definitely can get worse. You've seen some rookies have some real struggles. It's more just I don't know if they trust him to run the offense is my biggest concern. And Arthur's when you see these type of quarterbacks like when the head coaches in offense like Raheem Morrison, Zach Robinson, all those guys, they need to trust him. And that's clearly something that they don't do because Kirk is giving them every reason to be like, yeah, like I'm not starting Oliver quarterback right now. It sucks because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks for fantasy of all time because he consistently was a QB1. Ain't happening this year, man. Ain't happening this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the guys can still get there. Like, we see Bijan still doing his thing. There's enough targets where the wide receivers are still doing it. So, the guys you were counting on, I wouldn't have too much to worry about. It's just maybe the floor is a little bit lower for Bijan, which sucks because we were expecting our
Yuck.
Yeah.
Basically all I have to say. Yuck.
Yeah, let's go to New Orleans and Derek Carr. There's another injury for the Saints. It's just bad, man. Hurts his left hand. Like, I think he was planting on it, fractured it. It's just a nightmare. I don't know what they're gonna do in New Orleans. It's rough. And this gets into the Alvin Kamara issue because this is gonna kill Alvin Kamara too. Mm-hmm. Where you saw he only had 10 fantasy, like he had 10 in half PPR, he had 10 fantasy. In PPR, he had like 15. He was fine, but like it really just hurts him and caps him. So. If you have Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara's one of the better running backs in the NFL, I think he's RB5 on the season. If there's no Derek Carr and they can't move the ball, it's going to be really difficult. It's just going to be a floor play, and that sucks. Kendrick Miller got involved. Then maybe we want to talk about Kendrick Miller. Had 10 carries, had a touchdown. Like, he's doing his thing. I saw people hang him up on the streets on Twitter, and I was like, oh, there he is. MVS, without Derek Carr, I'm not going to be interested. No. Juwan Johnson got 50 yards and a touchdown. So what are you kind of thinking about this offense if Derek Carr is not going to be playing quarterback for them? Like, what are they doing?
Is it Hainer? Probably. It's probably not Rattler. We know it can't be Taysom, but Derek Carr Taysom'd himself into the air and landed on that hand. Yes. It's broken. So we'll see if he's able to get back out there, but there's no reason for Derek Carr to get back out there. He's making a ton of money. Just sit out the rest of the games. Washington, Green Bay, Vegas, and Tampa. We'd love to play Saints against Vegas, especially. You can't. I think Derek Carr sits. I think they probably put him on IR just because the season is over if they do the right thing. But you know what? They might give the ball a ton of times, like you said, to Kendrick Miller. Alvin Kamara, I believe, is 29 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Kendrick Miller was absolutely hated to the point where he was put on IR, yet he was injury-free by Dennis Allen. Now he's Dennis Allen-free, which is nice. And you see that he comes in and he's able to get in the end zone, but just 3.2 a carry. I mean, there's really nothing here. Better than Alvin Kamara this game, but there's really nothing here for anyone for fantasy, especially with Carr out. I am done with the Saints. Juwan Johnson, I get it. He should not have done this against the New York Giants, but he was left wide open on his touchdown pass. It was just a blown assignment. Otherwise, he was corralled. If he doesn't catch that pass, he's 3 for 35 with no touchdown, and he's a bad fantasy play. So I think everybody got lucky except for Derek Carr, and you do not play a Saint again. I get it, Alvin Kamara. You want to, but against that Washington front, you can't. Against Green Bay, you can't. Against Vegas, maybe you won't be there if you're playing Alvin Kamara, though. So.
Yeah, like if you have Alvin Kamara, it's really hard to bench him because like he still had 22 touches in this game. That's the thing. It's just he's that floor play. So you kind of have to accept the reality of that offense without a viable quarterback. Really kills because if like you're talking about Kendrick Miller who saw 26% of snaps, carving out an even bigger role. It's like it's interesting to look at. Like Carr hadn't thrown an interception for like 10 weeks in the season too, and then he just comes out of the offense. We saw Rattler, to your point, Hainer. I don't know, man. These guys are just not NFL level quarterbacks, so it's just gonna be tough. Let's transition to something else.
Well, one last thing. If Carr plays, maybe he wraps it up and just takes a crap ton of shotgun, reps because it's his non-throwing hand, right? So if he plays, sure, I will play these guys. But yeah, it's looking bleak.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, goodness gracious. But hey, you know what's not over week? A 7-game winning streak to Trump for. So congrats on that. That's good stuff. We like that. The Saints offense, we don't like that so much. So not so fun. Let's go to the Giants because I want to talk about my boy. Like the offense, I will say, is really tough to trust anyone in this offense. But I did find some stats to try on Tracy, so I'm going to hype them up really quickly. Since becoming the starter in week 5, Tracy is the RB14 overall, 13.7 fantasy points per game, and 4 top 10 finishes. I get it. There's issues, but we saw in this game, Tracy did it again. Like we talked about, hold on to the ball, Tracy. You're not going to come off field. What happens? He did it again. Now he was kind of saved by a touchdown because he had, 83 yards in this game, so it's not the best game in the world. But 10 targets, which is just out of control targets. And if you're going to give Tracy that type of usage, even on a bad offense, he could be very fantasy valuable for you, particularly in PPR leagues. The rest of the offense, Blake Neighbors was okay. like he wasn't the best. He was fine. He had 10 targets, but he had 5 receptions, 79 yards. Not much else. Wandale had 11 targets, so Wandale's back in our lives. I'm assuming he's going to stay back in our lives since Darius Slayton was kind of just not much doing anything else. And then Bellinger, not sure. How are you feeling about this offense? Are you willing to start Tracy? And then what are your thought processes on Neighbors? So I think those are the 2 most important guys that anyone's really going to start on this team.
Yeah, I'm starting Tracy for sure. The problem is I do not want to start him against Baltimore next week. That's really the biggest issue. I think you fire him up anyway as a flex simply because you hope he gets there in the passing game. Like you said, 10 targets, which we love to see. 5 for 38, not bad. Tracy is always a threat to score. Here's my concern. Drew Lock looked awful for most of this game. He got it together late. But he looked awful. And it's because the Saints were absolutely, just jamming their defensive lineman down his throat. It was really difficult for him. Sam Darnold had the same issue in his game early. Obviously, he came around. But I wonder if they don't go back to Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito this week fully practiced on Thursday. Why not sell the tickets? You want to lose anyway. You gain nothing from Drew Lock. And if that's the case, you're going back to Tommy DeVito. Yikes. For all of these other guys, I want Drew Lock for my Tyrone, Tracy, my Malik Neighbors starts. I just think it's a mess. Yeah, you start Tracy, Neighbors if you have a better, do you start Neighbors weekly or do you start Calvin Ridley? Probably Ridley.
It's gonna be matchup dependent with Ridley. I think I'm more worried about the matchups with Ridley than I am with Neighbors, just because the volume's gonna be there, and he's such a downfield target. So it really comes teams running too high, or if they're running cover one, stuff like that, it'll tilt it a little bit. But yeah, it's just
see Indy Jacksonville for Ridley.
They're juicy, man. It's juicy with him. That's the thing. So he's we talk about these guys. He's more of that floor play because the ceiling just has not shown up since week 4. It has not been there. Now he's been fine from a PPR standpoint, but half PPR is really killing you. So it just is what it is. Now Locke is going in for an MRI today. They have not given us the information, so they said he's a starter if healthy. Who knows, man? It's just this team's in flux. This team's bad. This team's very bad. They hit on Tracy. The line is just lost Andrew Thomas. It's all kind of gone downhill since then for the offense. Neighbors, maybe we could get some Wandale plays in a best ball or something like that. That could be fun. But outside of that, man, it's rough outside the Tyrone Tracy streets, boys. Let me tell you what. So if you got Tracy, good to you. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully he can survive Baltimore, and then ideally you have a bye and you don't have to worry about the Baltimore game, and then you play the round 2. That would be a lot better for you. Let's go to our next game. Let's talk about them. We're gonna talk about the Panthers and the Eagles. I don't know what else I gotta say about this man. This guy's playing out of his
holy
mind.
hell.
Bryce Young, man, he played really, really well, and should have. They had a chance to win this game if Stonehands Xavier Legette
he won the game. He won
the ball.
Bryce Young won the game.
Oh God, man, I don't know. It's weird with the benching. We were so against the benching at the time, but it worked out exactly how they hoped it would work out. He has come back looking like that first overall pick. He's making just absurd plays, and everyone was concerned about his size. But you're seeing what he's doing at his size right now, dude. I don't know. That's an NFL quality quarterback right there. It just looks good, man. He just looks really good. So where are you at with Bryce Young? How are you? I guess from a fantasy perspective, because that's the harder part with Bryce Young. Are you going to start him at all, or are you just going to enjoy it from afar?
I did not want to start him in this game, and you could have started him in this game. I know he only had 1 touchdown. But he was 29 yards on the ground. He didn't collapse for you like I expected him to. He plays Dallas next week. He plays Arizona after that. He plays Tampa. Dallas and Tampa specifically, you can fire up Bryce Young. I really do expect him to be in that QB 8, 9, 10 range with upside. He's running around. He's making great decisions. The play calling has been on point. We're going to miss Jonathan Brooks. Holy hell, that's such a blow for this team, for that young man. But from a football perspective, Chuba gets it done. Adam Thielen is a monster. I faded the crap out of him. Should not have done that. I like the player. I talked about it all week, but I didn't like the matchup. Didn't matter. Adam Thielen, you just fire his ass up every week. Dallas, Arizona, Tampa. Go ahead, play him. He's been on fire.
Yeah. The nice thing about this offense is it's consolidated. Now, Brooks is one of my favorite players coming out last year as far as like from skill position players. Seeing that injury, like I'm worried it's another ACL tear. Hopefully it's not. Maybe it's like the MCL or something. It's just either way, it's a long recovery. It's going to be a long time back for him. Guys can come back from tearing the same knee. Like you've seen guys do it. It's just very, very difficult because that is the same knee. So I was just rooting for him at this point to come back and be the best. And yeah, like with Thielen, clearly we were hoping to get or someone else would step forward. Now, the thing about Coker is Coker has a shot too. If Coker's healthy, just put both those guys on the field. They're clearly the guys that you want to build around. At least the Thielen, at least he gives them a shot, right? And we saw this last year with Bryce. Like Thielen was a wide receiver 17, like on the season, even on a decrepit offense. He just does enough. Now, it's not explosive. It doesn't matter. It's pure PPR stuff, but it doesn't matter. It's still fantasy points. So you can, we talk about with Chuba. With no competition, Chuba is a locked in top 12 running back because he's been really good with the offense. Offense line's good enough. You just fire him up, man. So, yeah. Hey, sometimes, we get it wrong. That's okay. I know, Jeremy, you were very much on the Steelers bandwagon too. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, the volume's going to be there. Like, you could play him. I wasn't expecting this, though. But, it works out sometimes.
I just want to throw this up from Scott because it's insightful. We said Kirk Cousins earlier, 0 TDs in 4 games. He's also thrown at least 1 interception in 4 straight games. The other names on that list, Trace McSorley, Curtis Painter, and Ken Dorsey, who I think was a Jet. Good Lord.
Sounds about right. Yeah. It's rough, man. Well, there's a few Cowboys points in here. We'll get to the Cowboys stuff once we wrap up the rest of these games. Let's go to the Philadelphia. I think there was actually a question here for where was it? Talking about Hurts. Mike, no, because their running is so good and they rush so well, and Hurts gets those goal line touchdowns, which he continues to get. Like this is the thesis with Hurts. Now the Eagles are the run heaviest team in the NFL. If you look at pass rate over expectation, they're bottom in the NFL because they don't have to pass to beat you. What this does is this hurts AJ Brown. This hurts Devonta Smith. Yes. It hurts Dallas Goedert. It hurts those guys more. It's Saquon Barkley, it's Jalen Hurts. Everyone else is secondary. So you're going to have these games where A.J. Brown doesn't see a target for half the game, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? It's A.J. Brown. But this is A.J. Brown's situation his entire career. Happened in Tennessee, too. Like, he's just on these teams that do not pass. You have Jalen Hurts. That's part of it. It just is what it is. So there's boom-bust level to it. So you see this, right? Barkley didn't really get the touchdowns, but he still got there because he had 124 total yards. He didn't even really have a reception, which is weird. Smith had 37 receiving yards, Brown 43. Calcaterra, who's playing for Goddard, got the touchdown. So, it's boom bust for these guys. And like with Hurts, he gets so much rushing touchdown. How many rushing touchdowns does he have this year? I think he's like 15. Excuse me. He's got 13. He's well on his way to getting another 15. Like, he's just such a goal line magnet. And I know I saw a post when the game was going on. Like, of course, Saquon Barkley gets tackled at the 1. And my thought process is I have a team that has both Saquon and Hurts. That's the easiest cure-all to having one of these guys. So you just have them both, and it works really well. I mean, they're just really good. But, your point about A.J. Brown. Are you worried about A.J. Brown? Devonta Smith was, he saw targets in this game. I know we're more worried about Devonta Smith than A.J. Brown, but are you concerned about the ceiling case with A.J. Brown being a little bit capped? Because this was Carolina. It's supposed to be a juicy matchup, right? Didn't show up.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? The first month of the season, Jalen Hurts, 34, 30, 38, and 30 pass attempts. That's weeks 1 through 4. Since week 4, he has not hit 30 pass attempts. We know why. Yeah. You just outlined it. It's Saquon. It's, Hurts himself is going off in the rushing department. Scored another one on the ground, 2 through the air. 14 of 21. But look, no interceptions. So when A.J. Brown says to the media that he's got an issue with the passing, it's not that he has an issue with Jalen Hurts. He has an issue with the fact that over the last 3 weeks, there's only been 22, 19, and 21 pass attempts in these games. And it's because they're running the ball a ton. They're doing it on high-end efficiency. And, look, Jalen Hurts missed a wide-open A.J. Brown in the end zone this game. I get it. But look, it's just the ball's not coming his way. I have a fair amount of A.J. Brown bags, and I am not happy about it either, A.J. Brown. I'm not happy about it. Let's throw the ball more in Philadelphia.
Yeah, the thing about Brown's only averaging like 6.6 targets a game, which it's fine, but it's not what you're hoping for. By the way, Jalen Hurts is on pace to set a rushing high this year. He's going to have on pace for 172 rushing attempts. Any quarterback rushing that many times, like that's brutal. Because A.J. Brown's on pace for another 112 target season. Like last year, I think he had 150 targets. Like he saw a ton of targets. The offense this year has completely shifted where Like these guys are just they're not seeing the targets, so they don't pass enough. Like it's unfortunate, man. It sucks for them, but hey, if you have Saquon or if you have Hurts, you're not worried about it. Like they're just gonna you just smash people in the face. It's glorious for that. So you have a good look at that. Yeah. Let's go talk about Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We were into starting Jameis in this game because we just knew the passing volume was going to be there. They threw it 40 plus times again, but it was just bad. They did not get much of anything. Jameis with 41 attempts, only 212 yards. The running backs, which we'll talk about here with Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb, Ford's looked better most of the year. Now Chubb was more efficient in the game. We'll see how it works out. I just don't know if you can really start either one of those guys. Judy got it done. Moore really didn't do much. David Njoku, back-to-back games, insane amount of targets, insanely inefficient. Like 13 and 12 targets last 2 games, and he's barely cracked like 50 yards. He got 42 yards here. Like last week, he had 17 targets, 52 yards. Man, it's just crazy. Like it's not working very well, but they're going to keep featuring him. So you ride that top 5 tight end, man. Yeah. For Chubb, what's your thought process? What do you do if you have Chubb rostered? Like I think you can pretty much drop Chubb. Like I don't think you're playing him. Like if you are in the playoffs and you're in this range of running back, I mean, I guess you can talk yourself in Chubb. He's going to be a top 36-ish running back, but I'm not playing Chubb. I don't even want to do it.
Maybe week 16 against the worst defensive football in Cincinnati. But otherwise, KC next week, Miami in week 17. I don't trust him. Like you said, he's splitting with Ford pretty much down the middle. The one time that Jameis did target him, he threw it instead into a defensive lineman's hands, and the guy took it back 15 yards the other way on an interception. So, Jameis is going to Jameis. That's fine. That's he's going to win you crazy games, and like he's proven last 2 weeks, he's going to lose you crazy games as well. And Nick Chubb is the one who suffers the most, but also Nick Chubb is still recovering from that injury. It seems like he's getting better. 4.3 a clip, not bad. But no, I'm not starting him.
Yeah, he's got like 3.3 on the season, I think. Like it's been rough. Now Pittsburgh's defense has been worse the second half of the year against running back. It kind of started with Tyrone Tracy where he went like for 88 yards. It's been kind of downhill for them, so they've kind of figured it out. Just me hyping up Tracy once again. But with this offense, I think without Pickens, it's interesting to see how it's going to shake out. It's clearly Harris going to be there on the ground. Warren is going to take a bigger role in the passing game. And then the complementary passing pieces, like, I don't think you want to play any of these guys. Like, it's going to be so spread out. I think you could do Freiermuth, but, like, Freiermuth is just a floor play. So I would say play the 2 running back. Like, I'd rather play the Pittsburgh running backs over the Cleveland running backs for sure. Like, I would rather do that just because Jalen Warren can get targets. And this gets into Pickens being a grade 2, like, injury, like a hamstring strain, I think it is. And though that's like a month long, so Pickens, which sucks because Pickens has been really, really good this year. If it does come out that he misses basically the rest of the season, which he could, I don't know. They're going to try and rush him back, obviously. It might be a good buy time for you in Dynasty on non-contending teams to go get George Pickens because it's probably going to change. We don't know if Russ is going to do it or not, but Russ is carrying this. They throw like 26 times in this game? Yeah, only 26 last time. So, yeah, it's just efficiency. It is what it is. Like, Russ is looking good, man. Congrats to Russ. I was wrong. I did not expect him to be this good this year.
Crazy. Yeah, somehow the QB 12 this week, just 158 yards passing and just 17 rushing yards on the ground. So Russell Wilson just continues to do it. He gets Philly next week. That's not going to be fun for anybody. But Baltimore the following week, you can fire Russ up for sure. And then Kansas City, why not? Kansas City hasn't been able to cover the last couple of weeks. So something's going on there. It's just not happening for them. So look, Russell Wilson has looked great. He's been doing his thing. He's been throwing touchdowns. It doesn't matter who is out there receiving them. He's just throwing them. Pat Freiermuth and Van Jefferson in this game. Van's one target. Van Jefferson sucks. Good Lord. But his one target got in the end zone. I was hoping for a little Calvin Austin love. He did target him 4 times, but my Scott Fishbowl dreams have been dashed. Look, Russ is just carrying this team. They keep winning. But like you said, listen, they're 10-3, right? It does not serve this team because they're not going to, even if they win out, they're very unlikely to get any kind of bye. I think there's only one bye. Is that how it goes now? So there's no way that they're getting the bye over Baltimore or over KC or Buffalo, depending on how that shakes out. So I think why rush George Pickens back for the fantasy playoffs? Have him ready for the real playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they also have gauntlet of a schedule in their next 3 games. It's Philadelphia, it's Baltimore, it's Kansas City, and they close out against Cincinnati. So they desperately need him back because there's no guarantee they even win the division. Like Baltimore's on their heels, and they're going to play them in Week 16. That probably decides the division, right? So that's right there for them. I don't expect them to beat Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia matches up really well for them. It's just better. Like it's just a better version of what Pittsburgh is doing, right? Their defenses, both these teams are really good defense. So I'm excited to see that game. But you're asking Russ to go above and beyond. So we'll see how it goes for him, man. It should be exciting. Could be a fun team down the stretch. Hopefully Pickett comes back and you don't have to worry about this because that would be nice. And like Scott says, like the games are close together. So I think it's more or less likely they win that division. But really, they got to beat Baltimore. That's the key. That's what it's going to come down to. They can do it. And then, like Scott says, they'll probably be the C3. If they are, then they got a good shot. I'm excited to watch them in the playoffs. That's more fun ball than we see from Pittsburgh in like the last 5 years. Let's go to Vegas and Tampa Bay. And we were talking about Sincere McCormick, folks. Hope you picked him up. 61% of snaps in this game. Looking really, really nice. I think he did well for you. 15 carries, 78 yards. He got a couple targets. Clearly the guy they like in that backfield because Abdullah had 1 carry, couple receptions. That's it. Dylan Lobby had some snaps, but nothing else. Jacoby Myers, just 10 targets. No big deal. Just wasn't once again. And Michael Mayer played Brock Bowers role in this game. I don't know what that's the more thing. It's like, what is going on? This was against Tampa. Like you can get it against Tampa. Just seems like a weird outlier, but I will say for McCormick, if you have him, I will start him over the Nick Chubbs of the world. Those guys, like it's going to be a volume play for him. Yep. And if you get a guy, well, now we'll say the one exception is White and Madison are both out. That's the one trickery thing with this, but like he just looks better than those guys. So you have a young guy on like a deal, might as well just play him. So I'm not too worried about them, honestly. I'll just play him. Where you at with him?
Look, it's the smallest of samples, of course. It's 2.5 games, really. It's really 2 games because week 12 and 13 were basically 1 game. But against Denver, week 12, only 5 carries, 6.6 yards per carry. Against Kansas City, 12 carries, 5.3 yards a carry. In this game, 15 carries, 5.2 yards a carry. This offensive line can block, right? They're not so bad, especially in the run game. We've seen it all season. They made Alexander Madison a thing for a couple of weeks. They made Zamir White a thing for a week or 2. They're making Sincere McCormick a thing. Whoever is the starting guy, that's who you play in this offense. And it doesn't matter. Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans, like you're firing up McCormick. If those guys are out. If Madison is out, it seems like Madison's healthier than Zamir. I don't know if that's true. It just based on when they're ruling these guys out, it seems like that's the case. If Madison comes back, they should still play McCormick. I would like for them to feature McCormick, but I will play Alexander Madison. If all of these guys come back, I'm not going to know who the hell will play. So I just need to figure it out. But to your point, I hope they hold out everyone and just let Sincere do his thing. And maybe he, comes on and is, just killing it. And Scott, we do our best. We get them right sometimes. Congratulations.
Yes, that's what it's all about. If you get it right, we all win. So I will say, White and Madison coming back this year, like their yards per carry are atrocious. Madison's at 3.3 yards per carry of the season. White is at 2.8. Like these guys are just like we talked about this at the beginning of the year. When people were investing in these guys, I was like, this is a trap. Don't do it. Because like White had an insanely high ADP. I was like, do not do it. It's a difficulty because the offense sucks. Now, they're just not explosive backs. That's the one thing Sincere McCormick does is he gives them a little bit more than what these guys can do on the ground. So I think the coaches see it. I'm going to bet on it. Could I be wrong? Yeah, I could absolutely be wrong because running back is all about volume and opportunity. So hopefully he gets that moving forward. It's a juicy match, like you said. Tampa, Bucky might be shelved. We don't know what's going on with Bucky. Like Jeremy was telling me off screen, some back tightness stiffing up. That's never what you want to hear. Anybody who has a bad back knows how much of a problem that is. Now, he might be getting some injections on the stretch, but this team is likely going to win their division. I don't know, man. They're just not that good is the problem. Like they're just kind of right there with with the Falcons and those guys. So Rachaad White will be that league winner once again. He'll come back from Rachaad White's going to have the full 360 experience this year. He's going to be the bell cow guy. Then he gets started chipping out. He's like, he's a passing downs guy, then a goal line. Then he's a guy you can't play. Now he's back to being league winner status. That's a full 360 Rachaad White. We'll see. Hopefully Bucky's not hurt. Like we're kind of talking a little bit before we know what's going on with it. So hopefully he comes back. It's smart for them just to treat Bucky with rest because he's by far better than Rachaad White. Like, I don't think anybody's going to argue that, right? I will say if news comes out about Bucky, like, you're going to want to pick up Sean Tucker. He's going to play a role in this offense. Like, it could be good. But, like, White could be the volume guy. Baker Mayfield does it once again. Jalen McMillan just stole Mike Evans' touchdowns. That's what I saw in this game. Jalen McMillan comes back out of nowhere. But, post-bye rookie bump, Jalen McMillan might be a thing. This is why I was hyping him up the entire season. I was like, looks like he could be good. And then Chris Godwin goes down, and I'm like, wheels up. And then he's just nowhere to be found because of injury. Yeah. So he got you 19 fantasy points in this game. Otton, not so great. He did just 70 yards, but it was only 4 targets. 70 yards. So. Overall, yeah, it was against Vegas. Tampa's offense is good. Like, what Baker's doing, those guys doing. I think they have – who do they have coming up? They have the Chargers in Dallas, Carolina. Chargers, Dallas, Carolina, and the season. Carolina.
So the note on Bucky is, remind me who the head coach is. Is it Bowles? Mm-hmm. That was the head coach over there. Yeah. So the note is about an hour ago, Bowles came out and said that Bucky's back tightened up after the game. Obviously, he left the game and left you with very little fantasy points in your lineups. God damn it, Bucky, you killed me. But look, he's hurt, right? So I think he should sit out this next game against the Chargers, but you weren't really relying on a great game against the Chargers. Yeah. What you're looking for with Bucky Irving were these 2 games against Carolina and Vegas. Carolina, yes, or Giants as well. Yes, Vegas got hurt, but if he's back, if he rests, I hope he rests. Dallas and Carolina, he's going to feast. These are Bucky games, but they could be Rachaad White games. You're going to start both of those guys. And, if Bucky's out, you're going to start Rachaad White.
Yeah, it's just, you're going to fire him up for sure. Like, this is one of the better, like, overall volume plays at running back position. This running back group right here, like, they love using their running backs in the passing and the rushing game. Their offensive line is dramatically improved this year, and that's the biggest noticeable difference, right? It's worked a lot better for Baker and those guys. I guess we can move on to our next game, but we got a question about
let's hit that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So, like, Kamara or Monty for playoffs, like, it's just going to be Montgomery. It's just a much safer option. Yeah, and they have really good matchup. Like, they're playing Buffalo next week. Like, you're going to want to play Monty.
Oh, yeah.
Kamara, down the stretch, it's been very much volume play. He's not the high ceiling. He's more floor. I think Monty needs touchdowns, but, like, Monty can get touchdowns each and every week. The teams, like, in their last season, both these guys, it's like 45 touchdowns. They might be more at this point. I haven't checked in like a week or two. It was like their last season-long 17-game stretch. These guys had combined for like 45 touchdowns. Yeah. You're going to see it again.
RB 4, 10, 16, and 9 over the last month for David Montgomery. He's currently the half PPR 10, PPR RB 9 on the year, 12 touchdowns already. You fire him up. This team is fantastic, and the Saints are just wilting through no fault other than all of the injuries they're incurring. And if David Carr or Derek Carr, whatever Carr happens to be back there, they're all the same. You can't without that guy.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, like, Washington's not a bad matchup, but it's just not the same. And with Kamara, because they're not able to like continually get these drives going downfield, this is what we saw earlier in the year with Rattler. Like, it was just ugly. Like, Kamara got there in volume, but like he had a game against Denver where they had Rattler playing 5 fantasy points because they couldn't do anything offensively. Against Kansas City, he had 9. Like, this is the problem in this offense. They don't have quality quarterback play. This really hurts. Kamara's going to be the volume play. You can always chase it, but I think Monty's the much safer option. Might not have the super high ceiling, but don't care about that. I just want guys that give me fantasy points. So
yeah.
I have not looked at defenses. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've barely paid attention to defenses this year. So like, that's not what I've looked at. I don't know the answer to that question right now. We could look it up, but we'll get back to you in 1 second. Trump force. We'll get to that. Let's see here. All right. Let's talk about, as Jeremy's looking that up frantically, we'll talk about Seattle and Arizona. Zach Charbonnet, baby. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is why we said pick up Zach Charbonnet. If he was at all available, like, he was on most rosters, but some leagues he was still available. Same thing with Braelon Allen. It did not work out as well as Braelon Allen, but this is the thesis you expected. By the way, if they consolidated that room in the Jets, it would have been a hell of a game for one of those running backs. But Charbonnet goes nuclear, 130, the career high across the board, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions, 59 yards, 34 fantasy points. Just goes bonkers. So if you had Charbonnet, you picked him up and you started him for an injured Ken Walker. And this is what my case that I was making is the running back fall off is so much greater from freaking like Walker to Charbonnet. It's like Walker's better. Charbonnet to whoever it is, like George Holani, that's like not even NFL quality running back. So that's a dramatic fall off. He's going to see all the touches. And that's pretty much what he did. I think McIntosh got a couple carries, like Holani had a reception, but like it's Charbonnet dominating the backfield. He's going to continue to do that. Now they have games against Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. Those defenses can be had. Obviously, Minnesota's tough. That one's worrisome, but you play them against Green Bay. Chicago, they can get had on the ground more through the air, so I don't mind Charbonnet in that matchup. So it's really the Minnesota matchup that worries you. But we'll see with Walker. We don't know the full detail on it, how long it's going to linger, if it's long-term or not. But you had him for at least 1 week. He got you in playoffs, man, if you got that. So it's well done, Jamie. Well done.
Good stuff.
Like that.
That was so Jamie, you were Jesse in our scenario, and I was your co-host in this scenario, arguing with Jesse. Jesse was like, I have him at least RB12, and I'm going to move him up. I was like, no way, he's RB19. No, obviously not. He absolutely dominated. He looked so good. There's a problem in Seattle now. Kenneth Walker is injured a lot, and Kenneth Walker looks good when he's on the field. He looks phenomenal. But you want to preserve this guy. And so why are you not 50-50 splitting them? This is exactly the point. Why is that not happening? It needs to happen. And Walker honestly shouldn't come back this week. They should rest his ass. They're in the driver's seat right now. And as long as they can win without him, which they prove they can, rest him another week and just, make sure he's healthy when he comes back, gear it up for the playoffs, go win that division, and really do it. But damn, we'll see. Good call on that one. And I absolutely love Zach Charbonnet in this game. And JSN does it again. Good Lord.
Yeah, JSN's dope.
Balling.
It's so they've been so up and down. Like we can talk about the wide receiver room. Like they only had 5 targets and 6 targets between him and Metcalf. The difference was JSN had the touchdown and more yardage. It's just like the Seahawks really went through the ground in this game. That's what they chose to do against Arizona, and that worked out very well for them. They basically dominated this game from not start to finish, but basically about second quarter on. Like it was really just Seahawks just really putting on Arizona. Arizona was in chase mode, couldn't get there. I mean, McBride did you the thing for Arizona, but like I don't know, man. Like the Arizona offense is just so hard to trust. I don't really know what to think of that offense. And we can kind of talk about Kyler, I guess. Yeah. Like what are you doing with him from fantasy perspective? Because he's been just all over the place. Now he's been fine for like outside of a few games. He's still, QB 10, but we're not getting that true ceiling we wanted from him. He's been more of a high floor play each and every week. The Jets game seems like the outlier, because that's the only game above 25 fantasy points. He has 2 games, excuse me. The Rams game in week 2 and the Jets game in week 10. They're really the only 2 games where he's pushing the high end, like top 5 quarterbacks. He's had a few, like he's been quarterback 10 on the season, so he's good. But like, are you worried about him coming up against New England, Carolina, Rams? Because that should be a juicy matchup down the stretch.
He's gonna suck me back in, Jesse. But what's even more ridiculous is 37, 45, and 38 pass attempts in this offense. This is not how this offense should run. I get it. It was against Seattle and Minnesota. They tested this defense, so I understand why you're throwing it more than you should. But that's we want in Arizona to get the ball to James Conner. That's how this offense is meant to run. This is where Trey Benson was relevant when this team was dominating teams. Yeah, exactly. Could he be? He should be, especially with that schedule and that run out. But if they're going to throw the ball 40 damn times a game with Kyler, that's ridiculous. So look, is Kyler Murray, he's the QB9 this week. He did a lot of that in garbage time. Is he going to be able to get there again? He could, but no, I'm not betting on Kyler. I would prefer to bet on literally everyone else in this offense but Kyler. That includes Michael Wilson. I'm getting there because, good Lord, it's a problem for me. I hate it.
Yeah, one of my home leagues, like everyone rosters multiple quarterbacks in that league. So I picked up like Herbert midway through the year. I had Kyler and Herbert. And I was going back and forth, and then I found out Lad was out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not playing Herbert." I played Kyler; it worked out. But like, I didn't feel worried about either one of these guys in this matchup. It just kind of is what it is with them. Now, you have good matchups. You're going to play Murray, but I don't know if we're going to see those really boom like monster 30+ point games from him. It just doesn't seem like they're doing it because like the rushing's there, but it's not extremely there because he only had 3 carries in this game. The rushing is okay. It's only 58 rushing attempts, as opposed to like Jalen Hurts, which is basically 3 times that amount this year. Kyler's not scrambling a ton. And that's more the thing we were worried about. I want to see it until he rushes more. He just falls into this kind of back end QB1, which sucks for Kyler. It's fine for your team, but if you're going up against Lamar or you're going up against one of these juggernaut quarterbacks, right? Like Josh Allen putting up the 50 burger, like you don't have a chance against that. So that's the tough thing about it. It is what it is.
Let's run back to Trone's question here on defenses. Yeah, I'm dropping the Broncos. They get Indy, the Chargers, and Cincy to close out. You certainly don't want them to, weeks 16 and 17 against the Chargers and Cincy. And Indy, they've been able to do it off a bye, 2 weeks to prepare. The Broncos did not look great this past week. I'm definitely dropping them. I'm dropping them for the Ravens. They get the Giants. I mean, the Commanders are a good shout because they get New Orleans, and if Derek Carr's out, that's a fantastic play. But then Philly after that, and then Atlanta, who knows who's the quarterback, but they have the weapons. The Commanders are just an average D led by a great mind in Dan Quinn. So we're not really sure what to expect there. I'm going Ravens over the Broncos here. Giants, Pittsburgh probably won't score a ton, especially with Pickens potentially out and in division. And then Houston, that's scary in week 17, but it's not super scary. And you can get a ton of sacks in that game. Stroud has been going down we'll keep this PG.
The offensive line's like the clowns, the blow-up clowns that like go back and forth that just use punch and they come back and forth. That's the offensive line of Houston. They can't do anything. Like, they just can't protect him. The pressures are out of control in Houston. And until that gets fixed, man, it's really just limits that offense, which sucks because these are two guys we're really excited about. Yeah, man. He was for basically 5-year stretch. He was so undervalued. He put up 1,000 yards. It was awesome. I was like, you should get Tyler Lockett like the 8th round. You'll be fine, right? Now it's kind of like it's Vandy's coming. So a lot of my group chats with local Seahawks fans, they want to like talk about trading Metcalf, and I'm like, fuck no, don't do that because you have Metcalf and nobody else, and this is the problem. So we'll see. I think Lockett has 1 more year on his deal. I'm not 100% sure. Like, he's either a free agent this year or he's a free agent next year. They'll probably just, let him run it back 1 more year, do the whole Ring of Honor type stuff, where they segue him and just send him out, on a good note. Because he's been one of the better Seahawks wide receivers of their entire career. Like, he'll go in the Ring of Honor type stuff for them because he's done so much for them through the years. Like 10 seasons, like, he's just been awesome.
To that point, JSN, this is the last 5 games, 180-2, 110-0, 77-1, 74-0, and 82 yards, and another score this past week. He's been absolutely cooking. Even in the last couple of weeks when the targets have come down, he's been able to get there on efficiency. He looks great. Gino is looking for him. They're running design plays to him in this offense, especially in the red zone. Holy hell. Like, he was wide open on that play. Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, I don't care. JSN has been the truth. Yeah, you fire him up.
You play both these guys. DK and JSN, you just play them both. See how it works out. Like, they're both top 24. Similar to the Jets, we talked about this. It's similar. I think you just prefer JSN, similar to how you prefer Adams, but you like both of these guys. They could get it up for you. And JSN's on pace for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns this year. So, doing pretty good. I think it's worked out pretty well for him this year. All right, let's go to our next game. Oh, no.
Yeah,
that's if you have Pickens, put him on the IR. If you're a contender in Dynasty, like, this will not kill you because Pickens has been good. He hasn't been like you should have guys that can replace him. But in redraft, if you have Pickens, it's a lot more difficult to find that production to replace. So if you don't have anyone on the bench, I would just go to these running back options that are going to see volume. Try your best to flex him. That's going to be your best way to go about doing it. But that probably hurts Pittsburgh more than almost anybody else. Like it's just they don't have anyone else to do what he does, right? With Najee goes down, you have Jalen. It sucks. It just sucks. I'll just say that. Let's go to Buffalo and the Rams, the Sunday Night Football game. My God, banana show. It was just, I don't even know what else to say. Josh Allen put up one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. He threw for like 350 yards. He had 6 total touchdowns in this game. He also rushed for a ton of yards too. Like, it wasn't just that. He had 82 yards on the ground, 342 yards in the air, 6 combined touchdowns, 50 plus points. I think we've seen 3 50 plus point performances this season. Allen's one, Chase is the other, and it's like Saquon or somebody else is right there alongside it. Like, it's just, if you had him, he won your week. If you went up against him, you not your best. Now, you could have combated with the other guy on the other side of the field, Puka Does, who went just bonkers as well. He put up 40 plus in this game. Josh Allen's great, man. Like, and people were talking like fading him this year, and I was like, can we not do that? Let's not do that. He hasn't been the high end like QB1. Like, I think he was top 6. This performance is going to push him back right in that range where he's QB2 now. I don't know if he's going to catch Lamar just because Lamar's been exceptionally good, but he's right there, man. If you have Allen,
right there,
you're feeling great going to the playoffs. Let me just say that.
I think Josh Allen is also the MVP of the league. He really should be. I know they lost this game. He beat the Chiefs. He absolutely carried this team. He crushed my James Cook bags, especially in Scott Fishbowl. I blame Josh Allen the most because James Cook, I needed 20 points for him. I need a couple 1-yard touchdowns, and Josh Allen took them all. It's just he's an absolute monster. He does it through the air. He does it on the ground. We know this about Josh Allen, but Josh Allen was hovering around QB6, like you said, and then he said, hold my beer, Haley Steinfeld. I'm going to go damn near win this game and put this team on my back and try to dominate. And he did dominate. Damn shame they lost this game. Wasn't his fault, though. Oh, man, monster.
Yeah, and like to your point on James Cook, freaking the other running back, Ty Johnson, had a long touchdown run. I was like, touchdown run, running back, James Cook. No, it's Ty Johnson. I go, what the hell is going on? Like, they didn't use James Cook the entire first half of the game. He had like 3 touches, and I was like, this is not good. This is not good. Because I haven't been in a couple leagues, and I was like, I love James Cook. But, man, this is always the concern. You figure they put up 44 fantasy points, or 42 points in the game. James Cook's going to get there. No, sir. No. I mean, in Dynasty leagues,
I hate it. No, well, so we're not talking super flex. We're talking about So
in redraft, if it's, I would not do that in redraft next year because we talk about Lamar and these other guys.
Late second.
Yeah, he'll be in that. The thing is, like, Lamar's still above him. So if you're taking anybody, take Lamar, right? Like, but yeah, they're going to be in that range. So we had Mahomes go round 2 this year. I think we had Allen right in that range. We had Hurts right there. There's also Jalen Hurts is right there too. So I think it's going to be between rounds 2 and 4 is what it usually shakes out for these guys. I would not reach into the first because these guys fluctuate with touchdowns so much, right? Like you can get hurt cheap or whatever. Like, but yeah, I would not be surprised if he goes bonkers down the stretch of the playoffs. Like next year, people remember that and they'll be like, oh yeah, Josh Allen. You'll see him at the 112. Somebody's like, Josh Allen. Like it's how it's going to go. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by it. I wouldn't do it, but this is the thing with James Cook. Someone always plays alongside him a role. This clearly was the matchup because Ray Davis was just like nothing. They were like, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson game. So they liked what Ty Johnson did against this defense in particular. So it's kind of tough sometimes. That's how it goes. Because Ty Johnson's the one. It was a receiving touchdown, right? It wasn't a rushing touchdown, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, he didn't have a single carry. James Cook had all the carries, 6 in the backfield. Ray Davis just healthy scratch. Like there was no information. I guess he played 22% of the snaps, but he had no touches in this game. It was very weird. I don't know why Ty Johnson was a thing, but this was Sean McDermott doing his thing. You were talking about Khalil Shakir. We can talk about Khalil Shakir. 5 receptions, 160-yard touchdown. Looking just really, really good. Cooper had 14 fucking targets and did nothing with them again. I don't know, man. Like
6 for 95. So I mean, he was okay.
I mean, that's being a little bit facetious for my part, but like he was good for you, but you expect a little bit more. Like, he was their 3rd scoring wide receiver, like behind Matt Collins because they got the touchdown. He didn't. On the flip side, you look at it and like Dawson Knox, I would have said you could probably start him. That did not go well. 1 reception for 5 yards. But this offense runs through Josh Allen, man. It's Josh Allen. Similar to Lamar and Hurts, like they kind of siphon away production from everybody else. It is what it is. It's just, that's the life. But it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Well, with Cooper, they're just still not on the same page. You can see it. Yeah. There's miscommunication routes at times where Allen just completely misses him. And you saw it in this game, and Allen was just like, he just kind of threw up his hands and like wasn't mad at Cooper because, it just is what it is. He's still integrating. But 6 for 95 is nice. It's promising. We know he's a great wide receiver. Yeah. They're going to get it done. But because Cooper is on the outside, who's on the inside. It's Khalil Shakir, and he is dominating. Yeah. Khalil Shakir rarely drops balls. But he only caught 5 of 8 targets in this game. It didn't matter, 106 yards and a touchdown. He looked like an absolute animal out there, and he made a phenomenal catch where he just fell down to 1-yard line. So you just Detroit next week. I mean, fire them up. Detroit can pass all over Detroit, New England, and New York. Khalil Shakir, yes. Also Amari Cooper, yes. I'm playing Amari Cooper.
Yes.
He's in that circle of trust enough. And they're going to keep trying to feed him. James Cook worries me, but you still fire him up as well.
Yeah, I think this was just a game that their defense could not do anything to stop.
No,
the Rams were carving them up. And Buffalo was trailing throughout the entire time because you fire him up. I will say with Cooper, this is the Ridley thesis from early in the year. You keep trusting the process. It's going to hit, but we're not clicking. It's just frustrating. So I'm frustrated watching it. I don't have any Cooper bags, but seeing it, it's just like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Especially when you see someone like Puka Nakua, where it's just like, this guy is on fire.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah, Puka's legendary, dude. Like that discount on the early season where people were worried about Cooper being the wide receiver one, Cooper Kupp, because of one game, and I was like, do we not just see Puka Nakua put up the best rookie season of all time? Maybe let's give him some patience, please. So you could have bought some discounts. Yeah, I'm happy if you got any. I think I got like 1 or 2 at the time. Like I love it. Like it's glorious. It was an injury on top of it, and he's just come back. He's just been dope. No big deal. 14 targets, 162 yards, a touchdown. Cooper Kupp was good too, but this is really the Puka Nakua show. We talk about Kyren Williams, running backs against Buffalo. I was a little bit more like worried because Milano came back. That did not matter. Kyren was really good in this game. 2 touchdowns. Just Kyren being the volume play, doing it once again. Stafford got there. Everybody got home for the Rams. Anybody you were playing, that is, right? So those big four did their thing. Yeah, I mean, I know people were concerned about Kyren last week, but his stat percentage went from 68 to 83 in this game. That's all we need to see. Even against San Francisco, to play San Francisco defense, fire him up. Jets, fire him up. Arizona, fire him up. What is he? What is he? Like RB7 on the season?
7.
He's been good, man.
Yep.
Did really good.
That's the thing too with Kyren. Only 3 yards a carry on the dot in this one, but it doesn't matter when you're getting 29 carries. I mean, the volume is there. 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was another 2 for 10 through the air. You love to see it from Kyren. That's exactly what you want. Like you said, San Francisco, Jets, Arizona. I don't care. You fire him up. The touchdown regression is hitting. He had a month with no touchdowns, and now it's all coming back. So I expect him to score in almost every fantasy game going forward here. You just fire him up. But on the other end, you play Puka, you play Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
I'm not scared of these matchups at all. And you play Kyren. That's probably about it, Stafford. But like those are the main guys you're playing anyway. They looked great, and look, they're fighting for a playoff spot, and they should be able to make it in playing like this.
Yes. Yeah, if those people wanting to know, Puka Nakua on pace for a 17-game season of 114 receptions, 159 targets, 1,504 yards. Just basically on the same thing as last year, just doing the same stuff. Like, he's just incredible. So, yeah, I would put him – there's not many wide receivers I would take above Puka at this point in time. He's just so good in that offense as long as Stafford's there. Like, he's mid-first round pick. Like, you're going to take Barkley above him. I would take him as like a top 3 wide receiver, maybe 4. Like, wide receiver 6, like if I'm giving there, I just do it. Like, he's just that good, man. 19 points per game. He's awesome. So it is what it is.
I'm furiously trying to look up his targets per game.
This year?
Bear with me 1 second.
No, you're good. It's a lot. I did the math on this yesterday. That's why I put out that tweet on it. But
there we go.
He's at, what does he have? Yeah, because they finally put him in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but he had a weird week 1 with just the 4 targets, and then he had a weird week 9 with 4 targets. So he's only looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's only 10th in the NFL in targets per game, Puka Nakua. And Cooper Kupp is 2nd. But yeah, it's
if you both those games were below 50% snap share. If you remove those games, you really want to get like dicey with the stats. Then his targets per game is asinine. He's pushing like 200. So he's been awesome. I think there's need to discount those stats. It is what it is. Let's talk about Chicago, San Francisco. George Kittle came out post game and was saying that we had a team meeting. Like we knew like we were up against it. And man, they put the hammer on Chicago. I was kind of excited to start Chicago players. No. San Francisco looks like that team that everybody feared at the beginning of the season. They were just awesome in this game. The defense came to play. The offense was on fire. Isaac Guerendo was money. Now we got a problem with Isaac Guerendo. He's freaking hurt. I don't know if he's going to play this week. So they're down to Patrick Taylor and Izzy Abanikanda, who I'm assuming. I mean, they still have Keyshawn Vaughn. Do you guys remember the ghost of Keyshawn Vaughn? Yeah, like if he gets healthy, needs to get activated. I don't know if they're gonna trust him in time to run the scheme. Maybe he is, but that's my big concern with him. So you can see Taylor, Juice, it's just gross. But I will say, Juwan Jennings clearly their best wide receiver. Juwan Jennings is clearly the best wide receiver. So, but for Guerendo, what are you doing? Like, are you at all worried? And he's gonna miss time because they're getting it sucks. I don't know.
What the hell do you do? Look, it's not Patrick Taylor. I know he scored in this game. But Patrick Taylor was never Patrick Taylor for Kyle Shanahan. It's the reason they signed Izzy Abanikanda, and he was made inactive this week. He's just not ready. They're going to try to get him ready for next week. So I do not trust Patrick Taylor. Do not go out and get him. Even if he's 50%, he won't be for long. Izzy is the better back. Keyshawn Vaughn, I do not trust him. Deebo Samuel had 5 carries in this game. I think they have to give Deebo the ball more and or pass the ball more. They certainly did it in this. They didn't have to do it in this game because only 25 pass attempts for Brock Purdy, but the efficiency was electric. And George Kittle and Juwan Jennings were just running up and down the field on this team. It was sensational. I hope Isaac Guerendo plays because then I'm firing him up. If he doesn't, I'm stashing Izzy, but I don't think I can play anyone.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like Kittle had 6 targets for 151 yards. That's 25 yards a pop, dude. Like that's not even receptions. He had the receptions too, but like that's nuts. Like he was just showing, hey, I'm George Kittle. Even though I'm old, quote unquote old, right? You know, because we're talking about NFL players. But man, George Kittle's just so good. It's so fun to watch a healthy George Kittle. If Deebo's fully healthy and back, like he'll be playing a role of these. These guys are still really, really good, and you know it'll get interesting with the running backs. We'll talk about it on the show tomorrow, the waiver wire, like what to do with this backfield. I'm not really looking forward to it. The flip side for Chicago, you want to? It's just, gross, man.
Well, look, like when in the end zone is the play on when in Rome, and when Rome is in the end zone, he's killing it. 4 for 42, not great on 5 targets. Good on 5 targets, but not great. 4 for 42. Got in the end zone twice. Rome is an absolute monster. He pulled a beautiful catch down the back corner of the end zone as well. DJ Moore still 6 for 49, so I love that. Keenan just 3 for 30. When he doesn't score, you generally don't like him. But Caleb Williams, 17 for 23, only 134 yards. That's really what it was. But 2 touchdowns from him. He continues to look pretty good. They're just not going to beat the good teams. They're not there yet. I think this team takes a big step forward next season. They're continuing to look decent. They're also 0-6 on the road this season, which is just wild. What are you going to do? It's a lost season. Shane Waldron, what the hell was that? Yes. So we're figuring it out, but a full off season with hopefully better choices in the coaching staff, hopefully a little bit more on the offensive line. Everybody grows together. There's good signs here, but yeah, this was super disappointing fantasy-wise for everybody but Rome.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's free agent in the offseason. I don't know if they're going to bring him back or what, or if they draft some cheaper slot wide receiver to kind of play that role. But we should expect Rome to take a big role. Him and DJ Moore, they need to fix the offensive line. That's been the entire issue, particularly with Caleb because he holds the ball so long. He needs offensive line. Like he's going to generate pressures if this is what it is, but hopefully they get it fixed. I don't know who they're going to bring in as the OC, the head coach. It's probably not going to be Thomas Brown. So going to be a lot of change. It's going to be a very important offseason for them to figure out next year because they have the talent, man. They have talent.
Before we move on to our last game here, just dropped from NFL Network. Derek Carr likely out for the season. Alvin Kamara is unusable.
Yeah, we should have listened to Jamie, our insider, and the info right there. 1049 dropped for us. So yeah, it's floor play with Alvin Kamara. You could still play him, but it's a much lower floor. This is the thing that sucks. So you might have to pivot off the Jervis play. Depending on who you have available. I have a couple leagues, I don't have a choice. Like in some of my dynasty leagues, I'm like, we're throwing them out there. But yeah, it sucks. It's not what you want to see. All right, let's go to the last one. Chargers in Kansas City. Herbert has no one around him. Like that wide receiver room and skill talent for Herbert. He's doing a lot with a little right now. Like Kamani Vidal, we wanted it to be a thing. He's splitting with Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards is once again the guy that's inefficient touchdown guy. 10 for 36 up in there. Quentin Johnson, Joshua Palmer. Palmer's fine, but there's no playmakers here. You look at Darius Davis. Now for Scott Fishbowl, Darius Davis is great because return games against Kansas City, but we're talking about offensive stuff. And it ain't gonna happen. And then it's Stone Smart and Will Dissly, to your point. Smart played a bigger role in this game. I'm not sure snap percentage. I think it was 37%, which is the most he's seen all year. So I don't know what that's all about. Dissly was at 40%, so he played less in this game. I don't know why that is. Maybe he's dealing with an injury. I don't know, but yeah, sucks for Dissly if you have him because you're probably counting on him, and it just backfired on you. Just not what you want to see, man. Not what you want to see.
I have a lot of things to say here. None of them are about fantasy. First of all, I'm really proud of this little tagline that I wrote, Stone's Smarts Dis Will. Also, Stone Smart's last name is spelled like Homer Simpson spelled it S-M-R-T. I mean, S-M-A-R-T. It's so stupid. The double T, whatever, you do what you do. He's a good athletic player, but he just never sees the field. I don't know if Will Dissly got hurt in this game. I have to go back and check that. Maybe somebody knows in the chat if Dissly was hurt, but he was really not seen from in the second half. It was all Stone Smart. I don't know why. I will say that Quentin Johnston was able to hang on to the football in this one. He made a couple of nice catches. I do not think that that's a sign of things to come. I just think he was very, very focused on that. And he's not the guy that you want to rely on. Josh Palmer actually looked good, but when you're rolling out Palmer and Johnston, to your point, these are the guys you're relying on. It's like, no, he does not have the weapons around him. J.K. Dobbins is not there. It's totally nuked this offense. I know you're playing the Chiefs and a good front, but they really, really miss J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, and Lad McConkey. Like, there's no
100%
receiving game. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So Disley apparently had a shoulder injury, so that's probably why we didn't see him in the second half. Was kind of perusing through Twitter. That came up. So, yeah, thank you, Scott. That's what it was. So, moving forward, you're probably not going to be able to play Disley. If the shoulder lingers and he's not playing the snaps, it's going to be extremely difficult. Now, they do have a juicy matchup. They get freaking Tampa Bay next week, so should be able to fire these guys up. Like, Johnson and Palmer could probably do some good things for you. I don't know, but, it's really comes down to the running back room, and Vidal hasn't taken that step forward even without Dobbins, so it's just kind of it's Herbert. You're not feeling great about anybody else, but they desperately need Lad McConkey because he's their one, explosive good playmaker.
They do. I go with the Ravens because you're going to be able to hold them for the rest of the season. I get it. You want to play the Commanders versus the Saints, but the Ravens against the Giants just as good. Is it DeVito? Is it Locke? Who cares? They don't have any weapons either. And they have, who's better, Jake Haener or whoever the hell the Giants are rolling out these days.
Right. I'd say the Ravens are just they're a better defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just a safer play to go the Ravens. Commanders high ceiling pick, but the floor's a little bit lower. So, it is what it is. Let's go to our
close it out.
Let's close this bad boy out. Get on out of here. Hour 30. No big deal. We're here, folks. Kansas City. Isaiah Pacheco. Start him. Anyone else? How you feel about this offense in general? Because we're back to this Kansas City lifestyle of DeAndre Hopkins caught a touchdown, so there was at least that. So congrats for doing that, DeAndre Hopkins, but Mahomes only one touchdown. Pacheco saw the majority of the work, which is what I want to see positively. I think next week you can definitely start him. But, still not fully there yet because Kareem Hunt, P. Ryan, they're involved. It's just siphon off. We're still waiting on the Xavier Worthy breakout. I don't know when, if ever that happens. Juju Smith-Schuster was back. Hopkins saw led the team in targets with 9. I think Hopkins is fine. Kelsey just decided not to really show up in this game. He still had 6 targets for 45, but you were expecting a bigger game because Noah Gray saw 5 targets in this game for 26 yards. So what the F? What the F, Kansas City? It's been so frustrating. They're an incredible team, 12-1, but it's so frustrating. It's just fantasy production-wise, this offense is a killer for you. It's we need a healthy Pacheco back because if we get that, at least you have somebody you can trust. You're clearly going to start Kelsey, right? But it's just
I tried to tell you, Jesse. I tried to tell you about Noah Gray. He's a problem, and it's because Patrick Mahomes started targeting him when everybody else left the field with injury. They brought in all these other guys. Now it's just this mixture. But here's the real issue. Patrick Mahomes is apparently so good that he's like he's playing in the NBA. He just decides when it's time to turn it on. He's like, oh, it's time to win the game now. Okay. It's a fourth quarter in an NBA regular season game. I'm just going to go win the game now. No big deal. We need this one. When the playoffs come, we are going to see these guys go off. I think it's probably Travis Kelce's last season. It certainly should be. But, if these guys win another Super Bowl, who knows? But Patrick Mahomes just continues to, in the fourth quarter, when the game is on the line, and it's on the line every week, he just scrambles for that first down when they need it. He hits the guy and finds him and does things inside the pocket, outside the pocket, behind the line of scrimmage. He found Kelsey to seal the deal here on one of the last plays of the game. So it's just it's insane stuff from Patrick Mahomes, and it never shows up on the fantasy stat sheet, and it's frustrating as hell. It's Isaiah Pacheco and nobody else, maybe Kelsey.
Yeah, it's the design of the offense too. The stuff they're doing. We used to clown teams for doing this, but they win with defense. They keep it close to the vest. They do enough offensively. It's just, and they have the difference is they have the Trump in Mahomes, where Mahomes can put them over the top doing that. It's incredibly hard to win. This was the Seahawks play style for a decade, doing this with Russell Wilson. The difference is they have Patrick Mahomes, which is just much better than Russell Wilson. So they really have that trump card, right? So, I mean, it's frustrating, but Kansas City knows what they have because they can't develop wide receivers to save their life. Like they just can't do it, right? So they bring in Hopkins. They just know explosive plays on this offense, so it takes them a long time to march on the field. Is what it is. Sucks for Mahomes in fantasy because we want to see those nuclear games. Yeah. Ideally, that changes next year. If they lose Kelsey, I think they're going to have to restructure, but that's next year. It's not a this year problem, so it is what it is, right? Like that was actually a good suggestion from Scott because 15 straight one-score games from the Chiefs. Like, that's not a bad bet at all. Yeah. It's going to be really close. I don't know how I feel about making that bet, but that's why it's a good bet. It's like, Jameis can do enough to get you there, but he could also single-handedly blow out the Browns himself by doing a bunch of turnovers, right? That's the Jameis Winston experience, right? So you never know with Jameis Winston. It's the wild card that's Jameis Winston. But that's enough talking. Let's talk about the Cowboys and the go no.
Oh, yeah. Before we do that, just a quick note. Jonathan Brooks is officially out for the season. It's his ACL.
Yikes. That is so brutal. This poor kid. I feel so bad for that kid. Doesn't even get he gets one game?
He looked good, too, in that one game. Oh, my God.
I know, man. You're like, oh, that's the guy. And then you saw the cut. I was like, I have so much Jonathan Brooks. This is a killer for me. I am not happy about this, folks. So, we're not putting boy over on the screen.
But now we know why he fell in the NFL draft. There was legit concern. We heard that. Here it is.
Such is life. What's she gonna do, right? So I need to scroll through these comments to find the stuff on the the Cowboys and Bengals. But let's just talk about the game for a second. How you feeling about it? You excited to play all of the guys? Because that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, everyone. Like I'm firing up Cooper Rush in multiple leagues. I'm banking on CD. I said at the top that I have a league where I'm down 1 point. And I have CeeDee Lamb going against Chase Brown. CeeDee Lamb has not outscored Chase Brown in fantasy since Chase Brown took over the full-time role. I don't care. We're rolling. Let's go, CeeDee Lamb. Yes.
Go. 38 points. 38.
Listen, Cincinnati sucks balls. We know this. They're terrible back there. They're going to give it up. Cooper Rush has proven the last 2 games that he can get there. And Ferguson is back on the field, which I love for this offense. I think you fire up every single fantasy relevant guy, and you're happy about it. Play Mike Gesicki. Sure. Why the hell not? I mean, the fringe guys, I don't want to rely on Tolbert or Cooks or Turpin.
Tolbert.
But if you have to, I don't hate it. This game should be an absolute bar burner. I don't see how these defenses stop each other. And Cincinnati has been so good on offense and so bad on defense. This game cannot help but be an absolute shootout. I really hope we see Bills-Rams 2.0.
Yeah, I hope we get there. I will say the Cowboys are getting healthier on defense. They got Parsons back. He's making a difference. They're bringing another D lineman back into this game. So their defense is kind of coming back to what it was. So they might be able to not necessarily slow them down, but just, bring the pedal down a little bit so the Bengals can't just rip 500 yards, 50 points this week. Like that's – I think that's what we're talking about. It should be a fun game, man. Burrow's playing out of his mind. Like if Burrow had a good defense, when you talk about him for the MVP because he's just been out of his mind.
For sure.
But it's a great point, Scott. This is the ideal fantasy game to close out the fantasy regular season. This is the one that does it. Moves to the playoffs. Now watch it be like a 15-12. Just
don't you dare! Don't you dare, Jesse! I hate when that happens. Really don't want that to happen tonight. God damn.
No. I'm excited for Chase Brown. I'm excited for Rico Dowdle. I'm excited for all the wide receivers. I will say if you're playing another wide receiver outside of Lamb, play Cooks. Seems like he's getting healthy. He's their number 2 guy. They trust him, right? Okay. But like you're really in the weeds if you're doing that. So best of luck to y'all, folks. All right, we're over a minute. We're an hour 30 here. So
let's go.
We're gonna cash out. We're gonna sell the farm. We're doing all that fun stuff. So for Jeremy and myself, SC and Aaron, if you have not already subscribed, you're with us this long, please do that. Like the show. We very much appreciate that. Makes all the world of difference to us. So thank you for sticking with us for 90 plus minutes of exciting, believe it or not, content. So we'll be going over tomorrow. Then we do rankings, back to all the grind for the playoffs. So look forward to all that fun stuff. We might switch up on the playoffs. We haven't talked about it yet, but we're going to continue the schedule. So for all of us, that's it. I'm going to keep talking now. So we will see you later, folks.